Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone. It is caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown! INDY! A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Renew now, drives in low, throws up a shot. It doesn't go. Tipped up and in by Anthony Leal. Indiana takes the lead.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
Now, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hey, everybody. Welcome aboard. Appreciate you being with us on this Tuesday at Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Of course, powered by Andy Moore Honda. The best in new and used vehicles. Just go to andymorehonda.com and get more to your door. And the Autograph app, where real fans get unreal rewards. The first app to track and reward fans for loving what they love most, turning passion into access and experiences. Download the Autograph app today at either the Apple App Store or Google Play. Autograph, where unhinged fandom meets unreal rewards. And make sure you use ISB Media as your sign-up code. How's everybody doing? Appreciate everybody jumping on the Andy Moore Honda hotline as well. I hate all of you guys. And wherever you are and however you're listening to us in this great area, whether you're up on WJOB, the voice of the region, 12:30 a.m., 104.7, and then across over in Fort Wayne on 1380, The Fan, Fort Wayne's only sports station. Make sure you stay tuned after Indiana Sports Beat for the Sports Rush. And then, of course, down in Evansville on 97.7 ESPN, The Ref, always the right call. Looking forward to talking to Mike DeCourcy today, of course. Cronic Hoosier will join us, and K-Bro, Kevin Brockway is going to join us. We'll talk some NCAA baseball as he has been covering that tournament the whole way, and plenty of other things. Danny Hurley makes his decision known. IU baseball. Devin Taylor gets some special rewards. We'll talk about that as well. I had some sad news. Pistol Pete Maravich, the all-time scoring record holder in the NCAA for the men, and to me he still has the record. That's an argument that I'll gladly have with somebody else. That's a goofy thing to say that he's not the record holder. He only was given 3 years, and he averaged 44 points per game in the era without a 3-point shot. So I still consider Pete Maravich the guy. But he died early in life of an undetected heart ailment. I think that he was 40 when he passed away. And, his father played for LSU, scored 3,667 points between 1967 and 1970. Still, that's mind-boggling. That's utterly mind-boggling. And unfortunately, he died in 1988 from a heart condition that had gone undetected, like I said. His son has passed away at the age of 42, a former LSU player as well. So thoughts and condolences out to the Maravich family. Just a sad deal for that. Hate to hear that. We've got All-Stars action. Well, we'll talk about that tomorrow with Kyle Ned and Rip when he joins us. But Devin Taylor from Indiana baseball is one of just 56 non-draft eligible, which means they have not spent 3 years in college yet. He's just finished his sophomore year, but man, oh man, he has lit it up in the era of, or in his first 2 seasons of being in college. He was Big Ten Freshman of the Year to start things off, and he just continued to fly as a sophomore. He's been all Big Ten 2 consecutive years now, and now selected to the prestigious to participate in the USA Baseball Collegiate National Team Training Camp later this summer. He is only the 6th ever Hoosier to be not awarded with, but allowed to participate in that. The last two, Sam Travis and Kyle Schwarber, both major leaguers. But, man, Devin Taylor's he's destined for big things in Major League Baseball. Like I said, he was Freshman of the Year during this 2023 season. He tore up the Big Ten in 2024. He hit .357, crushed 20 home runs, becoming the first Hoosier to reach 20 homers since 2011. In your first year. It's amazing. He's also got 54 RBIs. So guess where he's from? Cincinnati. That town has produced some big time baseball players, man. Big time. And not just played for the Reds. I'm talking about that originally came from Cincinnati. Danny Hurley. I look forward to talking to Mike about this, but ultimately decided to stay with UConn. He was courted heavily by the LA Lakers, and I thought that he was going to go. It's easy to say that that he wasn't going to go, but and he didn't, obviously it was not used as a you got to pay me more money kind of a thing, because UConn couldn't come close to paying what the LA Lakers could have paid. So he's staying in Storrs, Connecticut, which I'm sure makes a lot of fans up there happy. It makes the players happy. They don't have to worry about jumping into the portal or anything like that. But he allegedly turned down a 6-year, $70 million offer. I don't need to do the math to know that's a boatload of money in 6 years. $70 million, man. What is that? $12 million a year? Just short of. Mercy. I mean, but that wouldn't even made him the highest coach in college basketball. He would have been behind Bill Self. I think he makes $13 million, which is, it's astronomical. It's crazy what some of these guys are making, but hey, you got to get what you can get, right? But he's staying in UConn. Can he win 3 in a row? Look forward to talking to K-Bro about that as well. He's big, covers college ball very, very intently. So looking forward to that. Some other news that I can't wait to talk to Mike DeCourcy about, and this is a little wild, is that the 1983, where did that go? The 1983 North Carolina State title team, the players, have sued the NCAA and the Collegiate Licensing Company, seeking compensation for an unauthorized use of their name, image, and likeness. But it's never going to stop, I can tell you. And I mean, on one hand, I don't blame some of these guys, girls, but yeah, that can of worms is open. The players filed suit in Wake County Superior Court on Monday, requesting a jury trial and reasonable compensation. The late Jim Valvano's 1983 team became known as the Cardiac Pack, which there's always been cardiac this and that, for a series of close wins, but they culminated, of course, in their improbable 54-52 win over Houston on Lorenzo Charles' dunk off of an air ball. It wasn't even a pass or a lob. But anyway, for more than 40 years, the NCAA, let's try that again. The NCAA in the last 40 years and its co-conspirators have systematically and intentionally misappropriated the Cardiac Pack's publicity rights, including their names, image, and likenesses associated with that game. We'll see how that turns out. I'm not an attorney here. This is more stuff from Michael Mangarelli. We've got to get Mike back on here, of course. Would have been a good time to if I'd have seen this beforehand. But where will it end? I mean, I know that the House versus NCAA, it goes back to 2016 because of statute of limitations and this, that, and the other thing. But now you've got this lawsuit being filed, clearly far outside of that. And an attorney has filed this. So it's either frivolous. And if it is frivolous, well, I think there should be action against any attorneys that file frivolous stuff. But is it not? I'm not an attorney, like I said. I don't know. But a lot of these guys, Lorenzo Charles passed away in 2011. Derek Wittenberg, who's airball, assisted in that, is on staff at NCAA State. So the suit contends that the student athletes' value to the NCAA does not end with their graduation. Archival footage and other products constitute an ongoing income stream for the NCAA long after the students whose images are used have moved on from college. Again, I'm not an attorney, but where's it going to end? I mean, the funny thing is most of these suits, not this one, but most of these suits have been filed by people or teams that are not in the mainstream of sports. You had the lawsuit from the basketball team from one of the Ivy League schools that like Mike DeCourcy has pointed out, they had averaged about 2,500 people a game. So we'll see when Mike joins us talking about that. And we'll talk about Dan Hurley as well. All that and more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Again, thanks a lot for being with us. We've got plenty more coming, including Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News and the Big Ten Network. We're not that far away from Big Ten football media days. We are about six weeks away from that. I saw Kurt Cignetti on the Big Ten Network yesterday. They have coaches meetings going on out in California. And it's going to be very interesting to see what Indiana can get done this year. I just think that not because of just the things that Cignetti has said, but the schedule is set up in a magical way. He could not have handwritten a schedule better for a new incoming coach, better for a program that needs something to jumpstart itself. They're in pretty good shape, but we'll look forward to talking about all that as well. Buffalo Bill said he went to the Sportstrome Speedway last Saturday night down there in Clarksville for the school bus figure eight. Oh my. Yeah. If you don't live in the area, the Sportstrome Speedway been around forever, right off of I-65. It's hilarious, but they have a school bus figure eight. And, well, that's something to be seen. We've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Autograph. Autograph, where real fans get unreal rewards. The first app to track and reward fans for loving what they love most, turning passion into access and experiences. Download the Autograph app today in either the Apple app or Google Play stores. Autograph, where unhinged fandom meets unreal rewards. Use ISB Media as your code. Back with more right after this. In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
Formerly BB's Chop Shop Market and Table is located on South Walnut in Bloomington and is your one-stop shop for high-quality meats, bakery items, and now fresh seafood. Chop Shop Market and Table has the largest selection of in-house made products around and everything you need to make a gourmet meal at home. Or pick out a tomahawk steak or a grouper filet and enjoy it cooked to perfection in Chop Shop Steakhouse. Chop Shop Market and Table, a part of the WOW Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by the Chop Shop.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Tuesday. Thank you so much for being with us. Brought to you by Chop Shop Market and Table, home of Indiana basketball and football coaches shows, located just north of Bloomington High School South on South Walnut in Bloomington. Your local meat shop, steakhouse, and caterer, no matter where you live. I was by there yesterday. That incredible prime rib sandwich is unbelievable. Speaking of prime rib, welcome in Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News. It's the best, Mike. It's the best of the best. See, you've got your Cincinnati Reds jacket on. I
figured they finally won a few games. I should wear it.
Ironically, I'm redoing a closet because it's some work done and had my Cincinnati Reds jacket on. Luckily, I didn't wear that thing today. How are you doing, sir?
I am doing well. How are you?
I cannot complain. Nobody wants to listen to it, but I am enjoying the heck out of this unbelievable weather we've had. I mean, I have yet to use my HVAC unit in like 3 months. But I noticed this morning, I was like, ooh, it was a little chilly out there. I'm like, 43 degrees it got down to. And I'm like, that's a little different for June.
Yeah, we had the same weather here in Pittsburgh. Didn't have to turn the heater on, but definitely no AC for sure. It's been very pleasant. Although here in Pittsburgh, the one thing that those who live here notice, and I didn't realize this until I moved to Memphis in '93, that the sun is supposed to shine a lot. See, in Pittsburgh, that's not something that comes up often. The sun is a periodic visitor, whereas in Cincinnati and Indianapolis and Memphis, it was there a lot.
So like Pittsburgh's kind of like London. Is London of the United States?
Yeah. There was a longtime weather person in Pittsburgh named Joe DiNardo, who's kind of like the icon of the weather here. And his famous line that people used to make fun of was "partly cloudy in Allegheny County." That's the way it's said with the Pittsburgh accent. And that was a perpetual thing.
The Yinzers, right?
Yes, exactly.
I learned that from our good friend Dustin DePirick.
Yes,
a fellow Yinzer.
Absolutely.
Which I was like, what? A what? But yeah. Wow. Danny Hurley had the opportunity of a lifetime. Some might say reportedly $70 million contract offer from the Lakers that he has decided to spurn and return to Storrs, Connecticut. I'm sure that's easy to say either way. Why? Two different games, but even 10 or 20 years ago when Mike Krzyzewski went through this very same thing, it was a completely different college game that were being compared. So they were a lot more similar now, with the exception of he doesn't have in the NBA, he wouldn't have to refill his roster every year.
Right. It was an interesting decision. I thought at the outset that he might take it. He might be serious about going. When it was revealed on Sunday, that he would make an announcement on Monday, I knew 100% that he was going back to UConn. It was set up so that he could be the returning hero, which is fine. He deserves that. He earned that. But once we got to Sunday, and that's like if he was going to take the Lakers job, it would have come out as he's taking the Lakers job, not as he's going to make an announcement on Monday. No, that we knew then. But it was an interesting decision under the circumstances, because the future of college basketball is much more assured today than it was prior to the decision in the House versus NCAA case. The way the repayment or payment, whatever, the amortization of the damages, the way that's structured is it all but assures the future of the NCAA tournament for the next decade. And so he can look at that and say, I can compete. However, the structure of the House settlement also permits members of the NCAA to share revenue up to about $22 million a year with their athletes. That's a complicated issue at UConn because they are dragging around this football team that is not in a conference and generates very little revenue. I think their television contract I believe it's with CBS, gets them $500,000 a year. They lost $14 million in the most recent fiscal year, 2023 fiscal year, $14 million on football. They had to get a $30 million subsidy from the university to make their athletic budget whole. So now, okay, so where's the $22 million coming from? Well, it won't have to be 22. Like if you didn't have football, it wouldn't have to be 22 to be competitive, because a lot of Alabama is going to spend X amount of that 22 million on football players. If you're Villanova, you don't have to worry about that. You're playing FCS football. If you're, I don't know, let's say, I'm trying to think of somebody doesn't like Marquette doesn't even put a football team out there. So whatever revenue they share is going to be with men's basketball, women's basketball, whatever. So they don't have to worry about that. So they have to come up with some revenue share that puts them competitive with the elite men's basketball teams, but they don't have to worry about the number being 22 million. What does UConn do? Do they not give their football team anything or very little? I don't know what the answer to that is. I suppose that Dan got a pretty firm answer that he'd be fine and that he could have the money necessary out of whatever budget they have to share with players like Alex Karaban that keep UConn up near the top of the charts. I suppose that's what he found out. And as long as that's the case, there's not any great reason to leave. The best reason to leave would be you go to the Lakers. It doesn't go great. You sign for $70 million. You earn the first, say, 39 of that or whatever by coaching 3 years, and then they fire you, and you walk away with $40 million. And then every single Division I job that has an opening, and some that don't, you could have anyone, because he's Dan Hurley now. He's won 2 championships in a row. He's been one of the best developmental coaches that we have seen in recent college basketball. You're talking about a guy who's put together in the past 2 years 4 players that were drafted, and not a single one of them, not a single one. I'm sorry, not a single one of the ones that have been drafted was a top 50 prospect. Not one out of those 4. And he won 2 championships with them. This year, he'll add in Donovan Clingan and Steph Castle to the first round, and probably Tristan Newton to the second. So that would be now 7 players drafted over 3 years, and only one of them a top 50 prospect. That is an astonishing record. I mean, we think Matt Painter does an amazing job at Purdue, and he does. But his numbers wouldn't match even that. I mean, it shows you Matt Painter has set the bar really high, and in that respect, and Dan Hurley cleared it.
Well, in what regard? I mean, Purdue does. Well, there's not a lot of pro players that come out of Purdue. Very few, to be honest with you, in comparison to say what has just been heck. As a matter of fact, Dan Hurley has probably produced more NBA players in the last 3 years than Purdue has in the last 8 or more. I mean, there have been a couple of guys that made, you go back to 2016, Carson Edwards. I don't think there's been anyone since then till now with Zach Edey. I'm probably missing one.
You're forgetting the number 4 pick in the draft in 2023. Jumps real high. Remember him?
From Purdue?
Yeah.
I'm sure I am. Who am I missing?
Jaden Ivey. You're missing Jaden Ivey.
I was thinking 2016 rather. He was last year?
He was 2 years ago.
Okay. I was thinking he was.
Jaden Ivey, I believe him actually.
I was thinking he was. I was thinking he was back in 2016. I had him confused with Carson Edwards, but anyway, yeah, that development and the winning the titles, it's amazing. I mean, it's utterly amazing. What UConn has done is astounding. They've won all 6 of their national titles since the 1990s. It's
1999. So it's, the 21st century plus one.
3 different coaches.
Yes.
It's utterly astounding. And what he has built there is unbelievable. But like you said, man, I don't know how you don't take that $70 million contract and get fired. You shrug your shoulders and you go to the next job where people are begging you to come on and you've got all that money in the bank.
Yes.
But you know
that was the Rick Pitino approach. Yes. And it put Rick in a position where he never had to worry about money for the rest of his life. Now, Dan, the reports are that they will put him in Calipari self territory, which means if they do that, his salary will essentially come close to doubling. And he'll probably, if you look at it this way, he'll lose around $3 to $4 million a year by staying at UConn. Which, again, I think that's an interesting component of this because it does, there are some people, like when you're a professional athlete, there are some people that say get every nickel. And then there are, like when Tom Brady was taking under market contracts, he was being criticized for not taking every nickel. People criticized Patrick Mahomes for signing the contract he did, which is a very long-term contract that pays him a lot of money, but that becomes diminished over time as the salary cap goes up. And that means there's more money available for the Chiefs to sign other players. But he looked at it as he wanted to be on great teams, and he was going to be loaded either way. So I think that's, what Dan has decided was that he can continue to be great at UConn. He's going to be rich either way, and he's going to stay happy. And my friend Adam Seguria wrote this morning, you can find it on his Twitter. I think it appeared in the NJ.com site where he's a regular contributor, that if he's going to leave for an NBA job in time, that the Knicks would be like the dream scenario, because he's a New York guy. I mean, he grew up across the river in Jersey City. He's lived in that area his entire life. The furthest he went was Rhode Island, which I think it's like a 3.5 hour drive up I-95 from his home, depending on traffic, of course. You want to make that drive at night, maybe, if you want to get the 3.5 hours. But that's his area. He's lived there his whole life. He doesn't have to move to LA to be happy or to be rich. And so I get it. I understand totally why he did it. But there was time on Friday when a lot of people thought he was going to go.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would think that just because of the offer that you'd be wise to think that. I mean, it was probably, I wouldn't say 50-50, but it had to be a daggone good shot at it, just because you can't just snub your nose at that. I don't care who you are. But there's a lot of things that go into it: family life, quality of life, making happy wife, happy life, not just all of that, kids, just not being in LA. There's LA's great. Everybody thinks it's wonderful, but you know what, boy, you can't just run down the road to the grocery store, from what I understand, if you're living in LA. It's not quite that easy. I
will tell you a story about that, Jim. I don't remember the year, but there was a decade or so ago, a little more than that, when I went out to California on a Saturday, when there was a game at Poly at noon and a game at USC at 4, something like that. I think it was the Arizona schools in town. So I saw maybe it was 2009. I saw James Harden play the Bruins at noon, over at 2, go through post game as quickly as possible, get in the car. And it's about 10 to 15 minutes from Poly to the Galen Center. If there's nobody, it's not that many miles. It's one highway, basically, maybe a couple of turns on the street, one highway, and you're there. and at 2:30, 3 o'clock on a Saturday, it was packed. I did not get to the USC game until halftime. That's the way it can be. It's not always like that, but it can be. And so it's making your point. And if you're going to be a basketball coach, you probably got to move around a little bit. You can't just, sit up shop, put your feet on the sand in Santa Monica and stay there with your money. You kind of got to go earn it. So that probably would come up once in a while.
Absolutely. Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News and Big Ten Network with us. We've got more coming up, including we'll talk a little bit about Caitlin Clark being left off the Olympic team, whether that rightfully or non-rightfully. She wasn't able to try out. NCAA state players from the 1983 title team are suing the NCAA now as well. They want theirs, Mike. They want theirs, baby. We've got all that and more coming up right after this. Brought to you by our good friend Cheryl Sizemore and Remax Realty. If you're in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore and her 2 decades of experience. It could be the difference between getting the home you want or not. Reach out to her today at Cheryl@IndiaHomePros.com. Back with more Mike DeCourcy right after this. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@indyhomepros.com. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
Formerly BB's Chop Shop Market and Table is located on South Walnut in Bloomington and is your one-stop shop for high-quality meats, bakery items, and now fresh seafood. Chop Shop Market and Table has the largest selection of in-house made products around and everything you need to make a gourmet meal at home. Or pick out a tomahawk steak or a grouper filet and enjoy it cooked to perfection in Chop Shop Steakhouse. Chop Shop Market and Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
Segment is brought to you by Freethink Apparel.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Tuesday. Thank you so much for being with us. Brought to you by Freethink. For all of your printing needs, go to freethinkapparel.com, whether it's 20 t-shirts for the family reunion or 200 for this summer's baseball league. Freethink Apparel does all your printing and more. No matter where you live, reach out to them at freethinkapparel.com. Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News and Big Ten Network both are is along with us as usual on this Tuesday. Mike, I saw that the NCAA state title team from 1983 is suing the NCAA. They want theirs, baby. Everybody, and I'm always wondering, I'm like, well, where's it going to end? I don't know if there is an end point. Everybody's going to try until, I guess, you get turned down, but mainly because I would too. The NCAA just doesn't win when you take them to court, it seems like. But yeah, this one's the first one that's way back. You're going from 2016 to 1983. That's a huge jump.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure about what the merits are of this because I don't know what revenue the NCAA has generated directly because of the the airing or the use of the tape of the Derek Whittenberg shot and Lorenzo Charles dunk. I don't know. It's hard to quantify really. It could be any play that they've used. I mean, it could be Leitner's play. I don't know. I mean, that one's a hard one, but I'm not surprised to see it. I think the NCAA has aired on this for a long time in this general space. which is why the O'Bannon case was successful when the NCAA was putting its name on a video game that allowed pretty obvious approximations of players in the past to be part of that. I think that's ultimately what led them into court. I don't know if that's what the case was decided upon or not, but I think that's one of the things that generated interest in filing suit. But I don't know what, I don't know how you say that the NCAA has gotten, at least in terms of promoting the tournament as a program. Come watch us because stuff like this has happened in the past. I don't know how much you could say that generated. If there were other uses of that film in a car commercial or something like that, I don't know that's the case. And if there were, then that would be a different story than what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's I mean, if you want to talk about shots you just pointed out, well, Christian Laettner, I mean, that's his iconic. Keith Smart, you're telling me that's a national championship winning shot? There's another one. There's so many things then all of sports you can go back and just bring out certain moments. So I'm not an attorney, so I definitely don't know. And it's just toothpaste is out of the tube, but just who gets some of it and who doesn't, I guess, is going to be how that ends up. And that'll be waxed up however they do that. Caitlin Clark left off of the Olympic team, a lot made out of that, which I'm like, you know what? And I don't care either way. She wasn't able to go to the camp, which if that was a hard and fast rule, then okay. Has that ever been skipped over before? Has anyone?
Well, you know why she wasn't able to go to the camp, right?
She was playing for a national championship.
Yeah. I mean, our listeners may not know, but the camp was held basically in conjunction with the Final Four.
Which is dumb, in my opinion.
Women's Final Four. It was in Cleveland, and so I know that I was aware of that because I sent it to Bill Bender, our college football writer, who covered the Women's Final Four for the Sporting News, and I sent him that and told him, hey, if if Iowa doesn't make it, if they lose to LSU or whatever, you'll still get a chance to do some Caitlin stuff because she's going to be there. Well, then. Iowa not only beats LSU and makes the national semifinals, but also makes the championship game. So of course she wasn't involved in the camp. Come on, that shouldn't even be brought up. The issue with this is simple. Is she one of the 12 best players in the NBA or WNBA? No, of course not. Is Drew Holiday one of the 12 best players in the NBA? No. In 1992, Larry Bird, this is what he finished with in 1992, which was his final year in the NBA. He played 45 games. He averaged 20 points. He was 14th in MVP voting. Was Larry Bird on the Dream Team? Of course he was, because he's Larry Bird. You're not putting that team together without putting Larry Bird on it. He was one of the key guys on the cover of SI when they revealed the Dream Team's identity. Of course he was on the team because he's Larry Bird. So it's not about the 12 best. That Dream Team is going to win anyway. Once Yugoslavia broke up as a country, there was no threat to them. If Yugoslavia had remained a country, at least through 92, it might have been interesting. I would have loved to have seen that game with the Yugoslavian national team that played in the Goodwill Games in 1990 against the Dream Team. I'm sure the Dream Team still would have won, but I'm curious how much they would have won by. It wouldn't have been a walk, or at least they would have had to compete. But they still were going to put Larry Bird on that team because it was the right thing to do. WNBA and women's basketball can be totally content with this decision. They put the best team out there. They're going to win by 20 anyway. They haven't lost a game at the Olympics in forever. They're winning every one of them by double digits. So the identity of the 12th player on the team wasn't going to matter to whether they won this gold medal. It just wasn't. that player's not going to play much except in the end of blowouts. So Caitlin would have been there to play in the end of blowouts. But what the opportunity you missed was to grow the game, as was the case when Larry Bird was a part of the Dream Team. Now, look, Caitlin Clark at the start of her career is not Larry Bird at the end of his. But Caitlin Clark, as a revolutionary force on the growth of women's basketball, ranks with the best, most important figures we've seen in team sports, in American team sports. If they let her, if they want her to be, I still haven't seen the embrace from the women's basketball community that says, yeah, she's going to make us bigger. Let's let that happen. Let's embrace that. She's going to make this game bigger because people are coming to watch her that weren't watching before. And you know what would have happened if Caitlin Clark was the 12th player on the Olympic team? What would have happened was millions of people who probably wouldn't have watched the U.S. take apart Serbia or whoever would have watched. And you know what they'd have seen, Jim? They'd have seen Caitlin sit for most of the game, but they'd have figured out, hey, Asia Wilson, man, that's something. She's great. Wow, this is awesome. But they don't ever seem to understand that's how the process works. That when you have a product and you can get it in front of more eyeballs, if your product is really awesome, then more people will say, I like this product. I came because Caitlin was in the game, but I found out I loved this game. It was the same concept in a much different way when everybody was complaining about Taylor Swift and the shots of her and the young women and young men who tuned into games when they hadn't in the past because they wanted to see Taylor Swift where Taylor Swift was. Well, some percentage of those people are going to realize that NFL football is fantastic and it's worth their time. And it makes everybody more money. And you know what the NFL did when they had that opportunity? They played it up because the NFL doesn't miss opportunities. Whatever you think of the 18-game schedule, and I'm not a fan, and et cetera, they don't miss opportunities to market better, to market more widely. They are really smart about those things. And the WNBA has not been to this point in Caitlin Clark's young pro career. They have not been smart at all about how they've handled her. And I start that at the top, the league headquarters. I go through the game officials, and then I go through the players themselves. That's the hierarchy on how it should be operating correctly, and it's not operating correctly on any of those levels. And now here comes USA Basketball to make the same mistake.
Speaking of Caitlin Clark, Coach Sides from the Fever sent a message to her team last night, benching the starters, including Caitlin Clark, which I haven't followed them enough as far as getting to see games to know if it's the team, what it is. She says you can't coach effort. That's a very young team. Maybe that's a message that needs to be sent to some young players getting introduced to a higher level of player. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't been in it enough, but they're just growing pains with the Fever at the moment, and they're just young.
Well, they are. I did not watch the entire game, but when I tuned in, they were already down significantly, and I did not see a great amount of precision on their part. I saw a lot of half-hearted shots that were, hey, I've got the ball, I might as well shoot it kind of shots. I did not see a great effort to get back into that game from anyone. But I also didn't see much change strategically. I've not been impressed by how that team has operated in general. I'm not sure whether or not whether or not the youth is the only excuse. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not getting on Caitlin Clark, but she's one of the league leaders in turnovers, man. And actually a turnover is what led to what happened in last night's game. She had the ball stripped from her, and Connecticut is able to make a buzzer beater. And apparently only one player made an effort to go after it, and Caitlin or Alea Boston was not one of them. So they hit the bench, and I'm like, I'd say most coaches would probably do the same.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any problem with that particular development, other than that it developed. But the way it was handled, I don't have a problem with. I don't have a problem with her benching the regulars. They were not performing. I would like to see them perform more regularly. Is what I would say, and I just haven't seen a great cohesion at this point, and I'm not sure exactly why that's the case.
Yeah, a lot of people are wondering why a former Indiana player, Grace Berger, is not getting any time, and I'm not into it enough to know why. I would. It is a little curious as why you wouldn't mix it in a little bit, because it seems like Grace is solid. She may not be an all-star, but she's also not going to lead the league in turnovers. She's a very, very solid player. And it's like you're giving up on solid play completely. And it's like all or nothing for that team right now.
That team definitely needs more solid, Jim. It's one thing we can say affirmatively. They need a lot more solid.
Without question. What is new with you? What have you been chasing?
I did a piece about Dan Hurley's return. Of course, at the end of last week, I also did a piece. I don't know if you noticed, Jim, but if Dan Hurley had left, this is why it's really good news that Dan decided to stay at UConn, because if he left, the entire enterprise of college basketball was going to collapse into itself. That's what I'd been told by Mike Greenberg and others, that him departing was going to be, this was the way that Mike Greenberg put it, the end as we have known them. And that's pretty close to a direct quote. And in all honesty, it would have certainly mattered to UConn. He is a tremendous coach. He is fantastic. UConn would not have been the same for a while without him, because he's great. But the rest of college basketball would have gone on. That people forget. College basketball survived an entire decade when the best players weren't even considering going to college. LeBron James, no college. Kobe Bryant, no college. Dwight Howard, no college. Kevin Garnett, no college. College basketball survived in the absence of them. College basketball has endured past John Wooden's retirement and Bob Knight's retirement and Dean Smith's retirement and now Mike Krzyzewski's retirement. It's a little bit more resilient than they're saying. It's a different game now than it was 5 years ago, certainly 20 years ago, certainly 50 years ago. But if you turned on the Final Four and you saw UConn and you saw them play, you saw one of the great teams in college basketball history, even in this environment of players changing teams and players being compensated at a pretty high level. It hasn't impacted the sport. It's made coaches' jobs harder. There's no doubt about that. Their jobs are harder, much harder, probably harder than they need to be. But they're also much better compensated than they've ever been, by far. I mean, there are probably right now 30 D1 coaches who make more than the highest paid coach made in 2005. So they're being well compensated. And that extends all the way down through the staffs, which are larger than they've ever been, because there are basically no limitations on that now. There are more people allowed to be involved in the actual coaching of the players on the floor. They used to put real restrictions on that. They don't do so much now. It's still a vital enterprise, and people want to keep condemning it. And I guess I'm not proved right because Dan stayed, and so now like the last piece in the wall that was holding it together, that key brick, if he had been pulled out at all, would have fallen down, is what I'm told. So now that piece in the wall is still there. So we'll never learn whether or not it would have all collapsed. But I'm pretty confident that college basketball could have survived the loss of even a great coach like Dan Hurley.
Yeah, I agree with you. Next time, we ran out of time, but I wonder, with the advent of NIL, any chance the NBA reverses their 1-year wait rule? Well, I don't see the point in keeping it.
Well,
now.
they did get rid of the G League. I mean, not the G League, but the G League Ignite program. They did get rid of that. They don't feel it's necessary. It was costing them money. If players want to get paid now, they can get paid. If they don't want to go to school, they can still go into the G League draft. They will have to be G League players. I mean, they can still play in the G League out of high school. That's never been forbidden. There's only been one player that ever went into the G League proper out of high school. I don't remember the young man's name. He had been committed to Memphis at one point, and then this is a long time ago, and then decided against going to Memphis and went into the G League directly. But that's only been one guy that's ever done that. So now they don't have to do that to get money. If they want to play professionally, they can still go to Europe, they can go to Australia, or they can play in the G League. The NBA was smart to stop burning money on the Ignite program.
Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News and Big Ten Network. Man, it won't be long. We'll be at the Big Ten Media Days and this, that, and the other thing. Not football's first, of course, but it'll be right around the corner. Appreciate you, Mike, as always.
Thanks, Jim.
You betcha. Mike DeCourcy joining us from the Sporting News here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Up next, Cronic Hoosier joins us. Plenty more after that. Brought to you by FreeThink. Make sure you go to FreeThink for all your printing needs. FreeThinkApparel.com. No matter where you are, they've got your printing needs taken care of. We're back with more right after this. In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of Wow Food Group.
If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl at indyhomepros.com. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33. Pizza, burgers, beer. Formerly BB's Chop Shop Market and Table is located on South Walnut in Bloomington and is your one-stop shop for high-quality meats, bakery items, and now fresh seafood. Chop Shop Market and Table has the largest selection of in-house made products around and everything you need to make a gourmet meal at home. Or pick out a tomahawk steak or a grouper filet and enjoy it cooked to perfection in Chop Shop Steakhouse. Shop Shock Market and Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details. This segment is brought to you by Hoosier Hanks East.
Welcome back. It's Tuesday. Thanks so much for being here. Appreciate you joining us now. Cronic Hoosier, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Jim. How about yourself?
Cannot complain on this beautiful Tuesday. Just finished up with Mike DeCourcy. Always a pleasure. And finally settling into a calmer time of summer. Things have slowed down just a tick. The All-Star games just finished up. The AAU guys are kind of in a, I don't want to say a lull, but the calm before the storm is next month. They will have their EYBL and 3 SSB championship tournaments. You got the TBT tournament coming up next month as well. IU football media days next month. So yeah, it's these next couple of weeks are kind of calming, I guess you would say, but there's always something to talk about.
I tell you what, man, the older I get, the shorter summer becomes. It seems like every year that window closes just a little bit tighter. But no, man, it's here for a minute. Don't blink. Days start getting shorter in like 10 days. But no, like you said, it's still a busy time. I mean, even with, we're down to the last 2 major finals of the season in the pro league. Indiana men's alumni just made it to the semifinals before they finally bowed out in the $1 million soccer tournament. Yeah. Which was cool to see. And then we get to do it all again here in just a few weeks with the tournament. So plenty of stuff to keep busy with. I saw when I woke up this morning, it looks like the football team lost a 25 commit. So the recruiting carousel just churns on and on and on. There's no sleep for that. And, honestly, probably no sleep for any of the coaches either. I see Woodson now has a full roster of scholarships on campus finally, and summer workouts are underway. So there's still a lot going on, even in the doldrums.
Yeah, I was just reading over which the way too early predictions now, they were always ridiculous in a way. Now they're beyond ridiculous. It's like any one of those things that are put out, they're kind of pointless. Getting a little bit better now because, like you said, you've got things wrapped up. But even with that, there's no way to know. Looking through Purdue and Indiana's, I'd say that Purdue averages, there's like 5 different selections, and averages about 12th in the country. Indiana, on the other hand, averaging about 18th in the country. And that's just based purely on speculation, and which I don't buy either of those, to be honest with you. But that's because we haven't seen either of these 2 particular teams play. And until that happens, we're not going to know that. As Cronic Hoosier rejoins us. Cronic, I was just talking about right now, if you look through the average predictors, Purdue is averaging about a 12th spot ranking, Indiana around 18, but neither team has been seen as far as those particular teams. Purdue without Zach Edey, I'm just not sold that they're going to be as good as people think. I don't care that they have the guards back. It's going to be a lot more difficult for them without Zach Edey, I think, but we'll see. Indiana basketball, I don't know how they're going to come together. We'll see when that happens. But those are just the two in-state teams. We haven't talked about UCLA or who else is going to be good in the Big Ten. Is going to be Maryland, Ohio State. It's going to be, with these 4 new teams coming in, that's going to be just a different thing to watch this year.
No doubt. And, I keep reminding folks, we invited Phil Knight into the conference. Everybody sleeps on Oregon, but that dude has God's money and he has all the power of all the shoe companies combined. He's like Thanos when it comes to just his influence and sway over the entire sport. And I don't think you can discount that wisely under any circumstance, quite honestly, because I would imagine he's probably reinvigorated with a new market that he can now push his ducks into. So it's going to be fascinating. But like you said, it's great to give people something to talk about. Obviously, it drives clicks, and everybody's got to eat here. Should you put any stock in it? Absolutely not. I mean, this is, and that's the thing. This right now, with off-season workouts, this is where teams are made. This is where championships are born. It really starts right now, and largely because of the chemistry component, in my opinion. I mean, you can have the best team on paper, but at the end of the day, it's got to mix in order for it to work. And the only way to do that's to roll the ball out and let the guys get some run together. So I think that's why it's imperative that teams get their guys on campus as quickly as possible, get them as a group, and just kind of let the chemistry take hold and see where the mix is going to end up, because it's a team sport and it's got to function as a team. And we've seen in the past examples of the synergy that can be achieved. 2016, I don't think a lot of folks saw Indiana being as potent as what they wound up being. Likewise, we've seen years where we thought it should have looked a lot better. Last year probably, and for a myriad of reasons, it just didn't pan out as people had hoped. But this is going to be a critical year, I think, for a lot of reasons, and I think everybody's aware. Everybody remembers the discontent, but I think importantly, Woodson was able to basically reinvent his roster in really about a month and a half, quite honestly. And I think going forward, you're going to have to be able to recreate maybe not all of that magic, but a pretty good portion of it. Just with the nature of the transfer rules today, with the portal being what it is, and so much freedom of movement for the players, which again I think is a good thing. It's just really going to be challenging to construct your roster, to hold the roster, to kind of build forward. And you're constantly having to recruit and re-recruit. I mean, look at Matt Painter. I mean, he just lost a guy after he'd already stepped foot on campus, signed, moved in, moving out before he's even had a chance to unpack his bags. But that's just today's day and age. And I think as impressive as it was for Woody and his staff to put the current roster together under the circumstances they did, I think it's important that they show some fruits from those, because we're now going into year 4, and I think by now culture should start to be pretty evident. Styles of play should be pretty evident. That's not to say that those things can't change, but at some point, I think strategically, you have to have a clear vision of what the program is, what it's trying to be, so that kids can determine how they're going to fit within it. And it's one of those things where momentum can be incredibly fickle. And just when everybody thought Woody had no mojo left, and all of a sudden he lands one of the top transfer classes in the nation, which is amazing. But it's got to bear some fruit, because ultimately that then gets used against you in the next cycle. Why would you waste your precious moments that you have on anybody's campus where they're not going to be able to deliver the things that were promised, the hopes that they sold you on? So I think if you want to see continued success on the recruiting trail, at some point you're going to have to see some success on the floor, and particularly in the postseason. So It's going to be a fascinating year because honestly, I don't think anybody wants to go through some of the tribulations at the end of the season with the fan discontent, the questions about the locker room and their cohesion and whatnot. But this is when it happens, man. I mean, we talk about everything, and so much of what determines a team's success is happening behind closed doors when nobody's watching. So it's an exciting time, where at least we're getting hug videos instead of just straight, weight bench videos, which is typical for this time of year. But at this point, man, I'll take any content they can shovel us. I just anxious to see what the Hoosiers look like here going forward.
Yeah, there's been a ton of talk about roster management over the last couple of years, and with good reason, because it was a little hectic. But that's not the conversation this year. The roster makeup is there. You've got depth at most positions. You've got depth to do a lot of different things, a lot of different options. Now the question is lineup management, and what will that look like for Indiana because of those different options? Knowing that Mike Woodson is a creature of habit, how often is he going to want to try to run the two bigs together? What does that mean for the other 10 players that are as far as minutes? It's just how are you going to run the guards? What is the offense actually going to look at? You just touched on knowing what kind of style there is, and that's not a question that any of us can really answer right now because we haven't seen anything other than the quote unquote buddy ball type of offense.
Yeah, and this is where you've as a staff, they've got to deliver on some of those pitches that were made on the recruiting trail. You don't get a backcourt like Indiana was able to assemble without some vision of a different style of play, I would imagine, than what we've seen, in the last couple of years where it was so post-driven. But I think, you go back and listen to Woodson's comments down at Starlight, and, it was like this epiphany happened that, you've got to have a good backcourt to win in college. And I think Indiana fans have been acutely aware of that for some time. And that's great to hear it said. Show me that you can utilize a more up-tempo and up and down type style. Show me that you can get some shooters open. Show me that you have an offense that's not just pound the paint relentlessly the entire game. When I say me, show the world, show the recruits, show the fans, show something though that's demonstrably different than what we've seen. Because the old adage goes, if you want different results, you got to have a different process. So I expect there's going to be, some noticeable changes, but how noticeable? How apparent are those going to be? How systemic are those going to be? And then, like you said, how can you adjust in game and show different looks? Because I think the dynamics of this roster are going to allow them to play in a lot of different ways. Whether it be a 4-guard set or just a small lineup as a whole, or the opposite. He's going to have enough length that he can really press that and go extraordinarily long from end to end across the floor. So I think it's going to pose a lot of different issues for opposing teams, but you've got to have a willingness to leverage those different combinations and and deploy them in a way that is hopefully different from what we've seen in the past.
Well, yeah, I mean, for Indiana, one would think that you need that because the quote unquote buddy ball offense has worked only to a degree. It has its ceiling and its limitations. Well, at least it has for Indiana. And so again, I can't see him not running Ballo and Renew in there together a lot. And I'm not saying what to do, what not to do, but I do know that we've seen what hasn't worked to a degree of elite play. And I always look at things about, the goal is to be elite, to win the Big Ten, to win, in the NCAA tournament, to go on. So to do that, you have to play elite basketball. You have to have, you have to have elite players, but they have to play well together and be run well together. And we talked earlier with Mike DeCourcy about UConn and how he has developed those guys so much that the NBA players selected off of his teams, none of them were top 50 recruits or hardly any of them. So development has been a key thing there. Will we see more of that in Indiana? We've seen that with a couple of the bigs, but not overall, I guess you'd say across the board yet. Yeah.
Well, I would also add, I actually saw one of those examples just the other day, Sunday, as a matter of fact, Jalen Hood-Schifino back in campus I imagine for the golf reunion down there at West Baden this last weekend. But no, I mean, development's been the thing Woody has shown on a limited individual basis. It's how do you do that across the board? As much as you love to see your guys winding up in the lottery, show me how the 10th man on that roster ends up working his way into a starting rotation here in a year or two. And we have seen that. I should add with guys like Gallo, with Anthony Leal, albeit under some duress from a roster standpoint. But that's really where I'm fascinated to see what this team's ceiling is. A picture came out last week of Ja'Kai Newton doing his standing vertical, and just absolutely at the top of the chart there. So, what have we done with him in the year that he's been mothballed as he was recovering from an injury? Because, he shows up on the roster as, effectively a freshman from an eligibility standpoint. That's a guard who's spent an entire year on campus, pouring over the playbook, grinding down film, sitting on the bench, just a little wallflower, taking everything in. I don't think you can discount the experience of proximity that he's enjoyed over the last year, just being that much more familiar with what the staff wants. So, just one example of, currently 12, that's really going to determine how far this team can go, because, as you mentioned, the talent level is markedly improved. The floor of the team is markedly is raised. Where's the ceiling? That's really going to be determined by how well the guys play together, how well they get along, and how well individuals can make improvements that collectively benefit the group. So that's really the benchmark, and I think I think you hit on it. The measure at this point really needs to be contention for some championships, and I do think it starts with the Big Ten. I know a lot of Indiana fans tend to get a little dismissive of that sometimes. We just play for natties or banners, whatever. If you want the best path to a banner, you need to win the Big Ten. You're going to get a higher seed line. You're going to have an easier route to the Final Four. But I think that's the one that's first in reach. So that needs to be your number one goal. I'd still love to see the Hoosiers win a Big Ten tournament. I know it's just a trophy and nothing else. But at the end of the day, we've never had one, and it's an elimination tournament right before March Madness begins. I don't think you can discount the competitiveness of it and how it sets the teams up for hopefully a successful run come March. But at the end of the day, I just want to see winning basketball, and I'd like to see a lot of it at the end of the season, quite frankly.
Yeah, you bring up a great point with the Big Ten tournament. I mean, that's something that definitely needs to be achieved, and this may be the year, because there is no definitive favorite going into the Big Ten season this year. None, like we've had in the last couple of years, man. Cronic, appreciate you as always, brother. Look forward to next week.
Thanks for having me, Jim. Be well.
You bet, brother. Cronic Hoosier joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Brought to you by Boost Fundraiser. Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member, free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all: sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, COYLE, to receive a discounted fundraiser. K-Bro, Kevin Brockway up next here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Formerly BB's Chop Shop Market and Table is located on South Walnut in Bloomington and is your one-stop shop for high-quality meats, bakery items, and now fresh seafood. Chop Shop Market and Table has the largest selection of in-house made products around and everything you need to make a gourmet meal at home. Or pick out a tomahawk steak or a grouper filet and enjoy it cooked to perfection in Chop Shop Steakhouse. Chop Shop Market and Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouth-watering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of Wow Food Group.
If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@indyhomepros.com. In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by the Fresh Fork in Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Tuesday. Thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate you so much. As always, brought to you by our good friends at the Fresh Fork. Enjoy healthy, delicious meals at home without the hassle with the Fresh Fork. Chef-curated, ready-made meals delivered right to your doorstep. Proudly fueling IU athletes and now available to you with a menu that's always fresh and diverse. For freshforkonline.com, use promo code radio20 and get $20 off your first order. Speaking of fresh, here he is. DJ Jazzy Jeff K, bro, Kevin Brockway. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Jim. How are you? And it's another trip to Omaha. Should be pretty interesting. I fly out Wednesday night, and nothing like the College World Series, Jim. It's quite an event. You should try it sometime.
This is your second year in a row getting to go?
Yeah, and I think my 6th or 7th overall. I'm trying to think. I went to the last one at Rosenblatt 2010, and then I went 15, 16, and 17. So, yeah, this will be sixth trip.
Yeah, and I noticed it's an all SEC versus all ACC lineup, man.
It's interesting because, no representation from the Big Ten, unfortunately. And
which is not unusual.
Yeah. A couple of years ago, right? Didn't Michigan make it a couple of years ago? And, of course, Indiana back in the Kyle Schwarber team. But it's really interesting because normally LSU takes over that town. They're like the one team. But, looking up and down at the teams, I'm just wondering, like, what fan base is going to be there, because Florida has a hard time traveling there. Florida State, Tennessee, it's 14, 15 hours drive. The Carolina schools, NC State, it's even further than that. So, Omaha will show up. I mean, they always show up in droves for this, but it'll be interesting to see what fan bases travel. And, of course, they also have the Jell-O shot challenge across the stadium at Rocco's. And we'll see if, last year it was LSU and a runaway. So we'll see this year which fan base can pull that one off.
Yeah, that's something I'm surprised gets as much publicity as it does, since it involves alcohol. But LSU, didn't somebody buy this like 27,000 shots or something last year?
Something ridiculous. It was like some chain, like something Canes or whatever, but Raisin Canes or something like that. But I would say overall, their fan base, for whatever reason. And I mean, for them, it's about a 10 to 12 hour drive. So it's not as terrible as you would think, but they're just a really rabid fan base. And obviously, tradition of LSU baseball, they've had 6 national titles. And, Florida has been to the College World Series now 9 times under Kevin O'Sullivan, 14 times overall, but they've only won 1 national title, and that was in 2017. FSU is going, I think, for the 27th time, and they've never won it, the late Mike Martin used to go every year. And, I don't want to speak too ill of the dead, but Miami fans used to have this joke about Mike Martin. They referred to him as the Lord of No Rings, because he would get to the, and would not win at all. I guess enough time has passed. This Mike has passed. But now Link Jarrett, obviously, who has done a terrific job there in 2 years, has them on the come where, this might be FSU's most talented team and a real good chance to win it all. And it could be a Florida FSU final, which would be very interesting if both teams, win their respective brackets.
And how about a shout out for the Evansville Purple Aces? They gave it a mighty run, man, in the postseason, and split the series with Tennessee until losing big on that final day, 12-1. But to make it where they made it, and to split to have a series go 1-1 with the overall number 1 seed, great year for the Purple Aces.
I agree. And, they showed a lot of moxie throughout, and, to beat East Carolina, to go up there and win on the road, and then, take a game against Tennessee on the road in the Super Regional Series. It's not easy to do. So hats off to those guys. I guess, Indiana had Tennessee also. They lost. Florida, I saw beat, Nebraska in the Stillwater Regional. They beat them twice. So I saw what the Big Ten baseball kind of had to offer, and it wasn't enough, certainly, this year for that league. And, but hey, there's, football season, and maybe with the new expanded conference, things will be a little different.
Yeah, a little shout out for Indiana. They were the only Big Ten programs to make both the NCAA tournament, in both baseball and softball this year.
That's very good. Yeah, and they have a good softball program too. They're on the come, and certainly, unfortunately, Florida made it to the Women's College World Series in softball, but fell short to the Oklahoma Sooners, who seem to have a dynasty going. I mean, they're just unreal right now in terms of what
they win, like 60 games in a row at some point.
Yeah, and they've won 4 national titles. Now, obviously, there are some people that think that there's a little bit of unfairness in the fact that the Women's College World Series is in Oklahoma City, so it's pretty much a home game for them, home state for them. But still, I mean, for them to do it, you still got to go out in the field and perform, even if you do have the home crowd behind you. And I think Texas had a lot of fans there also when they played Texas versus Oklahoma. So I don't know if that entirely washes per se, but it does set up pretty well for them that, they don't have to travel, and that they have a lot of their home fans with them.
Yeah. And the College World Series, always something fun to watch. We've got some fun stuff to watch here. You got the College World Series coming up. then the TBT, the basketball tournament, and this year up in Indiana, there is a regional site at in Hinkle Fieldhouse, which that's cool in and of itself. But you've got a team from Purdue, from Butler, and from Indiana in it this year, K-Bro.
How about that? That's going to be a lot of fun for sure. Hey, curious your thoughts about Dan Hurley staying at UConn, bypassing all the money from the Lakers and deciding to stay in college.
Call me greedy or whatever, but I'm sorry. I'm taking the $70 million, baby. Because, worst case, he gets fired in 3 years and he still makes $70 million. I mean, that was probably all going to be guaranteed money. And that's probably the only way he would have gone is if it were guaranteed. And I'm going to take the $70 million because I was talking with Mike DeCourcy about it earlier, but worst case is he gets fired 3-4 years in. Who cares? You're going to have people begging you to coach their teams. And UConn might even fire their current coach to get you back at that time. And you'll still have $70 million in the bank. So, yeah, I can't say I'm surprised, but I would have personally, I'd have taken the money and ran, baby.
Danny Hurley, he's a pretty competitive guy, and I'm sure you've seen some of his antics on the sideline. I mean, he's a pretty intense guy. So I think that would have been interesting going to the NBA and, during the course of an 81-game season, how that would have played, right? And I think with all college coaches, the best ones, certainly I think, Billy Donovan, Brad Stevens, who's now in management, obviously, and has the Celtics within 2 games of a national championship. And I think he found his calling more upstairs and as a in-game coach or as a coach on the hardwood. Billy Donovan is still, in 9 years in the NBA, I would say just kind of mediocre career. He obviously had that good first year with Durant and Westbrook, but couldn't sustain it. But it's a hard transition, man. It's a real hard transition going from the college to the NBA. And maybe Hurley thought, hey, why mess with Happy? You know what I mean? And you look at the long range, you say the $70 million now, but if Hurley keeps his roots at UConn, he's going to make, who knows, maybe over $100 million the rest of his career if he stays another 14, 15 years. So, there are two sides of the coin. Maybe you play the long game there. But if he does have a burning desire to go to the NBA, maybe in 3 to 5 years, maybe an East Coast team like the Knicks or the Nets would be a better fit for him also.
You're saying exactly what Mike talked about because he is an Upper East Coast guy, that he would probably be more of a fit for someone like those exact teams that you just mentioned, especially if he grew up with an affinity for either one or both of those living in that area. So it's just something that I wanted to ask Mike, but we ran out of time, is with all that is going on now, with players getting paid, making a lot of money, why wouldn't the NBA do away with their 1 year wait rule, or what 19 or whatever the rule actually is before you can enter the NBA?
I think, David Stern mentioned it 15 or 16. Well, we're going on close to 20 years ago. It was adopted. And he said, hey, look, a lot of people thought this was something like altruistic to save college. And he said, no, he said the scouts want the tape. They want to see, they want that 1 year in college to see so that they don't make the mistakes on kids when they're 18 years old. I think that's the reason. That's the main reason why this, it's basically the scouts. They want the tape. They want the evaluations. They want to see how some of these players respond in a college environment rather than going straight out of high school.
Did you make the tape? You got the tape? Did you make the tape?
I got the tape. Yeah.
You got the tape?
I got the tape sitting somewhere there, Jim,
It's one of my favorite movies. I'm drawing a blank on the name of it right now. Gene Hackman and Will slap a guy. I can't remember Will Smith in that movie. You got the tape. Did you make the tape? Great line from that. But yeah, I get that. And but they're taking a chance anyway, most of the time, even after a year in college, because half the first round is not even guys in college. They're coming from overseas, coming from Europe.
Yeah, no question. And listen,
there you go. Thank you, Five Left, enemy of the state.
Enemy of the state. Okay. They would not have, they wouldn't be coming from Europe if those kids didn't perform. Let's put it that way. I mean, you take a look at some of the best players in the NBA right now, they're Europeans. So Jokic and Luka Doncic, and, you can go on and on in terms of that. It's become a new talent pool for sure. It is true that the overseas market has created, probably cut into the American NBA player, but it's a global game and you got to adapt. I mean, same thing in Major League Baseball too. You have Latin America and their influence in terms of drafts and so forth and everything. And it's interesting, fascinating for sure.
Yeah, and it's going to be fascinating to see where college athletics continue to move. I don't. How much more can it change? I was talking with Mike earlier. Like I said, you've got the 1983 North Carolina State team suing the NCAA now. Is it just over that one video of the last second shot?
Yeah, perhaps. It's interesting because of the settlement money and now the revenue sharing. They're talking about $20 million, which I think is interesting. So there goes the TV bumps that all these schools were expecting to have. That's going to go towards the players now in the SEC and in the Big Ten. And maybe it's a reason why they did it to begin with, was they kind of saw this coming. They had the foresight to see that, hey, this is coming, and we're going to need a war chest here to pay the athletes as employees. And it looks like that's where it's going to go, in the House settlement for sure. And teams are going to have to adapt. Athletic departments are going to have to adapt. You're not going to be seeing the same bloat, with the 7 and 8 assistant athletic directors. That's going to be cut down. And I honestly think that's probably a good thing. You know what I mean? Let these people work harder. And the same thing with the coaching staffs too. They might be cut, or the support staffs. I mean, do you need like 300 people inside a building to analyze 3rd down and 9? So I think there's going to be a paradigm shift. You saw what Trev Alberts did at Texas A&M. I think you're going to see a lot more of that in terms of slashing some of these athletic departments. So.
Hey, we've got the man Cabro with us. We've got some more. I'm going to talk about. There's going to be a pay me whiplash coming without doubt. And I wish I had the video to show you of Cabro doing some karaoke. Man, he was busting it out. What song? I can't remember what song it was.
It was a little Foo Fighters, Everlong, yeah.
Oh, yeah. One of my favorite songs.
Yes.
I wish we could play that right now. We've got lots more coming up. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Marie Island, Florida. Cabro, down in his country. Make sure you stop by. They've got everything you'd like to have. Great meals, freshly, locally sourced seafood, cocktails, your favorite craft beers, and live music every day. Just go to theuglygrouper.com. Back with more right after this. In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas. Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of Wow Food Group.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
Formerly BB's Chop Shop Market and Table is located on South Walnut in Bloomington and is your one-stop shop for high-quality meats, bakery items, and now fresh seafood. Chop Shop Market and Table has the largest selection of in-house made products around and everything you need to make a gourmet meal at home. Or pick out a tomahawk steak or a grouper filet and enjoy it cooked to perfection in Chop Shop Steakhouse. Chop Shop Market and Table, a part of the Wow Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville and Evansville.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Tuesday. How are you? Hope everybody is doing well. K-Bro with us. Kevin Brockway, former IU beat writer, now down in Gainesville, covering Florida and many others as well. But I was talking about the North Carolina State team suing over that. Well, that was for a national championship. That is no cooler than Keith Smart's shot. It's definitely no more relevant than Christian, well, not in Indiana at least, Christian Watford's shot over to beat number one Kentucky back in 12 or whenever that was. Man, can you imagine if he got a residual for every time that clip has been shown in the state of Indiana alone?
Chris Chiozza for Florida hitting the game winner against Wisconsin too, down here. That was obviously a big dramatic shot. But I do think it's interesting because NC State.
Christian Watford won an ESPY, man.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting too is a lot of times I think what happens is these athletes, though, when they go into the NCAA tournament, I mean, don't they sign waivers, giving up the rights to that?
I don't know that they used to have to because they used to not have any rights.
Yeah, but I think, I do think that a lot of times when you're a college athlete, you kind of sign away that stuff. So I find it hard from a legal standpoint for them to challenge it and get it. But if they signed it away, but it's we're in a new world now where I guess you can challenge it and so forth. We're going they're going down here with the Jaden Rashada lawsuit, obviously against Florida coach Billy Napier, claiming that he was quote unquote promised a $13.6 million NIL deal. And he's got Rusty Harden defending him. And if you remember Rusty Harden, he defended Enron and he defended Roger Clemens during the PED scandal in the late 2008, 2009 before Congress. So it's we're in an interesting new world, and the ones that win are going to be the lawyers. It's going to be billable hours. Billable hours always wins, as we know.
You got that right. There's no doubt about that. Anytime an attorney has the opportunity, it's, oh yes, we should sue them. Let's sue them. But where does it end, man? I mean, there's going to come a point where, and I think we're getting closer to that, but where fans, and I'm not talking the ones that just complain about it, I'm talking about the ones that are actually ponying up. There's going to be a pay lash where it's like, dude, I'm done with this. and it's being spread out so much. The schools are getting less because now 20 million of it's going to go to the players. That's money that they didn't get or would have gotten. Now they've got to find that money elsewhere because they still have to pay for the scholarships and this, that, and the other thing. And their fundraising that they're used to doing. And the same people that have been giving those funds are now being kind of split. There's only going to be so much.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, if you've ever looked at an athletic department budget, now Florida generates, I believe it's 180 million in revenue. I don't know how much, Indiana generates, but I would have to think it's in the ballpark of that. And media rights accounts for about 50 million of that. 50 to the Big Ten is probably even more, right? Because they have a better TV deal, 60, 70 million of that. So I think the money's there. It's just how you spend it. And then, of course, the way the system always worked, and, some people would contend that this was unfair, was football and men's basketball, revenue created from those two sports, propping up everything else. The smaller sports, the country club sports, but what we're finding now is, and certain, take a look at what Terry Morin's done at Indiana. I mean, they're starting to fill that building. That's becoming a little bit of a revenue producer. I mean, baseball
but they still lose money.
Baseball kind of breaks even. Are you sure they lose money? I would find that hard to believe if they're selling 8,000, 9,000. Now, their ticket prices are probably, much cheaper, obviously. So, I mean, that's part of it. But maybe, hey, look, maybe this is a time now with Terry Moore's program, what they're doing. Hey, jack up the ticket prices a little bit, see what the price point is, and see if you can make a little more money. And I will say this, too. What's interesting is people are talking about, softball as non-revenue sports. Well, the TV deals, and it would be interesting if there's a way to earmark this, but, the Big Ten Network needs programming. They're not going to run, or the SEC Network, has this thing, The Book of Manning. They can't run The Book of Manning all the time, the Manning documentary, even though it's really good. So, yeah, I mean, you need lacrosse content. You need softball content. You need these minor sports. So, I mean, that's technically revenue producing. It's not, I think the days of saying, oh, well, these sports are revenue drains. I mean, they provide programming for these networks. It's not necessarily as much of a revenue drain as it used to be. And
but if you're providing revenue the same as, or providing content the same as generating revenue.
Yeah, but if you're providing content, I mean, they're commercials for that content, Jim. I mean, they have to have commercials. So maybe there's a way to do it. And I mean, it doesn't get the same ratings, but maybe there's a way to earmark it where you could say, hey, look, lacrosse generates this much revenue in programming. Let's earmark it directly to them. Let's earmark. So there are solutions. That's my point. I mean, there are ways to do it where you can't kill the small sports and stuff. And there's, like I said, plenty of money to go around. I mean, $40 million in athletics, for administration at Florida. I mean, do you need 9 assistant athletic directors? That's my point. There are ways to cut there and give that money to the players, I think, without even cutting the coaching salaries, or like, Billy Napier having, 50 or 60 full-time members in the building trying to figure out 3rd and 9, and he's still got 20 guys running on the field, at the end of the game on a kickoff. You know what I mean? It's just, like I said, there's plenty of ways that you can cut the bloat.
Yeah, and some schools are going to have to start looking at whoever is making those decisions, contracts that you're signing with coaches, all of that. It's become such a financial. Is an athletic director's job now more financial? It used to be more about the sports and the programs themselves, but now it seems to be much more about the almighty dollar.
I agree. I think it's always been a financial balancing act, but I think, the best athletic directors, and I go back to Jeremy Foley, who was the athletic director before Scott Strickland here at Florida, hire really good coaches. I mean, Jeremy Foley hired Billy Donovan. He hired Kevin O'Sullivan, who's going on his 9th College World Series appearance. I think that's job number one, is to hire the coaches that can build the programs that are going to sustain and be successful and generate revenue for you. And certainly, we'll see what happens with Scott Dolson in Indiana with this hire, right? Kurt Sidnetti, is he going to be the guy, and Fred Glass, probably when you look back on his tenure, a lot of the basketball hires were hit and miss. And, Terry Morin certainly is a little bit of a feather in Fred Glass's cap, and Tom Allen had a little bit of a run, but I think Kurt Sidnetti will be that's going to be an interesting hire on Dolson's legacy, along with, of course, Mike Woodson.
Absolutely, because football is the engine that drives the sports train at most places, except for schools like Indiana and some others. But Indiana is actually, I think truly this is going to be a big year for Indiana football and Kurt Sidnetti. He's a no BS kind of guy, but also he could not have handwritten a schedule better for a first-year coach coming into a program that needs a bump, that needs growth. They've got 8 home games this year, K-Bro, and they travel to UCLA, which is a team in turmoil with a new coach there. You've got Maryland at home. You travel to Northwestern, which is going to be playing on a soccer field, team in turmoil. You have Nebraska at home, which that's going to be that one's going to be a tough win for Indiana. Matt Rule has done he did a great job last year, and you expect a bump from them this year. But then you've got Washington coming in. Again, new coaching staff, an entire new team. So that's a possible win. Michigan State, they're still reeling. You got Michigan and Ohio State. Those are the only 2 definitive losses on the schedule for sure, with Nebraska kind of a tough game behind it. I don't think Purdue's going to have a bump. This could be a tremendous year for Indiana football.
No Penn State on the schedule anymore.
No Penn State. No more Big Ten East.
So that's a plus. I think, you don't get all 3 of those teams. Yeah, no, I think it's going to be – who's going to be the quarterback, you think, for Indiana?
Man, I all along thought it was going to be Curtis Rourke, but in the spring game, Taven Jackson looked really good, but I would expect it to be Rourke, but I can't say because, like I said, Taven Jackson was markedly improved. He looked really good at the spring game, so the good thing is Indiana has a solid quarterbacks room. They just had the #1 recruit in the country in for a visit, Kevin. And I know that I've said that a couple of times, but the sheer fact that they were able to accomplish that. I mean, do I think there's a shot at them landing him? No, but they don't have to. The sheer fact of getting a #1 recruit in, that speaks loudly to other guys, and something that Indiana football's never had happen before.
What are they going to do with the facilities there? Are there any plans for upgrades with the Mellencamp? And because that's something
they just
that
installed brand new turf in Mellencamp, and I'm sure that they're doing other things, hopefully to spruce it up a bit. But they've got brand new turf in there. They've moved the student section at the football stadium now from kind of what would be the south. If you're looking out the press box, would be the north east corner. They're moving them all the way to the complete end of that. So when a team is on that end, it should be and could be very, very loud for them, the bowl there. So they made some changes there. As far they're adding more quote unquote suites, but those are on the field, and I don't know how sweet those suites are. But
how about the weight room situation? Have they got their own weight room yet? Or are they still sharing it in the stadium?
Well, they've completely redone the weight room as well. Whether or not they're going to switch it or be able to add others, I don't know. I don't know how big of a deal that really is. I mean, if you can schedule it, who cares? The thing's football's not using it 24/7. So and it's so large. I'm like, man, but we'll see. I think a lot of times that's just more for talking than anything else. So there's that.
Well, I mean, recruiting, people look at it, but I think it's so funny. What's interesting is the paradigm shift is that, Florida built this, gorgeous practice facility, so forth and everything about 5 years too late. And now in recruiting, it's all about NIL. So it's all about, how much are you going to pay me? That's like the #1 question right now and the only question. So the whole facilities thing has, I think, run its course now. And now it's about, in recruiting, it's about, hey, look, what kind of deal can you spring on me and so forth. And Sam Pittman had a great line at SEC Media Days, too, about, some of these schools that have ramped up like their dorms being nicer and stuff. And his line was, these kids will live in a tent if you could give them a really good NIL deal.
That's right. That's a great line. K-Bro, cannot thank you enough. As always, it's a blast. Love having you on, brother. Good to see you as well.
Yeah, it's good catching up, man.
You have a great day and enjoy Omaha. We'll check in with you, see how things go out there.
Getting ready for some steaks, and it should be pretty good. The Drover is always one of my favorite spots. Cassio's too. So
enjoy it, brother.
All right.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. That's going to wrap it up for us today. Big thanks out to Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News and Big Ten Network, of course, and Cronic Hoosier for joining us here on the program as well. And K-Bro, Kevin Brockway. Looking forward to that. Tomorrow, of course, on the program, Dylan Sin joining us from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette, Kyle Neddenrip, and Rick Wilzich as well, and whatever else is going on in the sports world. Looking forward to it so much. Thanks so much to you guys. Cannot thank you enough. As always, big thanks to Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Make sure you keep that championship smile. Go see Dr. J. Thanks to Tyler for keeping us between the white lines today. Until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.